that is the audit provision triggered at 5% and a severability clause. And then there were about 4 issues where I don't think there was, my recollection is we weren't necessarily even, the parties were even talking about these between Thursday and today, build out predatory pricing, uniform pricing, and then the issue of public right-of-way management. So speaking for, I don't care who speaks, those issues where there are negotiations going on, tell us kind of where we stand and when we can expect some final resolution of those issues. Because as you'll see, we have a drafter with us today, and he is going to be drafting an amendment, and he'll have an amendment drafted by tomorrow afternoon for the committee's consideration. When is it tomorrow? 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. So we'll have an amendment drafted by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And so who wants to speak for, I don't know, one side or the other on this issue of where we stand on putting together something? Shirley.
Marty Ryan, ACLU, Iowa. I think I'll probably be leaving here in just a minute because I had noticed that there was a meeting before the meeting. I objected last week to a lot of things. I was not invited to the meeting, so I had absolutely no idea how negotiations are going on, and I feel very bad about that. Very frustrated, and I'm sorry. If you don't want to include me in, we'll just work against the deal. Thank you.
Well, I would say that represents a very serious political error on someone's part. Okay, who's next? Yes.
Marty, good morning. I think what we've experienced is your subcommittee last Thursday was impetus to solve a couple things quickly, the audit provision, and a couple other things. And then we realized once we got around the table late Thursday afternoon, conceptually, we drove to agreement on many areas. And then it took Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to put language back and forth. But I think something that was missing there is we weren't at the same table in that exchange until again this morning, about an hour ago. And at that meeting, we hammered out another few items and conceptually got closer on the outstanding items. And that leaves a couple for the end. And I think.
What are those couple? Look, I understand neither side is going to agree to anything in isolation from the whole package.
Correct.
I understand that. I mean, I've been around negotiations for 30 years. I know how that works. So nobody's agreed to anything. I get that. But I want to know within those 7 or 8 things that you're supposed to be reaching agreement on, where right now, where are those 2, Mark, that you said continue to vex you?
I would say that the largest one is opt-out, and it's not because we beat each other up or can't get anywhere. It's kind of the way we work is we take the simple stuff out first, and the stuff that's not quite as hard, and this is one that's we're just kind of hanging around at the end.
Yeah.
Gross revenue definition, although I think if that won't be the thing that will us up.
Okay.
And then the determination of franchise fees going forward. And I'm happy to be corrected. Tag, I think we're close. I think we're close. Some of these we just agreed to drop.
Like what?
Anything with the application process. Build out, although there is a technical change. Right away.
Yeah.
So there are a number of things that
And predatory pricing.
correct any uniform pricing.
Both.
Yes.
So we're down to about 6.5 issues.
Right, and if you were asking me how difficult these are, I would say I think there's just down to a couple of them.
Okay.
If we make headway on those, everything else could fall in place quickly. That's just my opinion.
Well, you're speaking for the city of Des Moines, and does the League of Cities concur or disagree with what the city of Des Moines said?
We would concur with what the city of Des Moines said. We have been working in conjunction with the city of Des Moines on all of these amendments. I would just say that for most of the cities that are currently in franchises right now, the trigger for when the incumbent can opt out of the franchise is crucially important. And so we may be in a different position than the city of Des Moines is on that. Also, the ability of a city who doesn't charge a franchise fee right now, the ability of a city to charge a 5% fee, or the ability of a city to increase up to 5% based upon a certain event. That's important. Those two, I think, if I was going to boil them down, they rise to a higher level of importance for the league.
Okay, we've heard from a particular side. Anyone from the Telco side want to either agree or disagree with what I just said? Yes?
For the cable industry, Mark is right. I agree with Mark and Julie. However, Mark is the only one I've dealt with on the opt-out. I need to hear the concerns of the cities. I know we can move. It's the one issue that really matters to us, so it won't be easy for me to move my people, but I know we can. I'm hoping we can work that out.
Okay.
Well, I was just going to say, we expressed concerns about the trigger for the opt-out in every subcommittee, and Mark is speaking on behalf of cities as well, so.
Good, and I don't mean that you haven't talked to me about it. I mean that Mark's the only one I dealt with this
Well,
week.
I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
Obviously, we have worked all weekend on this. We've been trying language back and forth. We just sat and worked this down, working out the details on those bigger issues. So I agree. I think that's the biggest ones that are left. So we've been working good faith on those.
I have a couple of questions, and I want to open it up to other members of the subcommittee. And quite frankly, we have other people in the audience that have, quite frankly, not been at previous meetings, and maybe they have something they want to say. I would like for you all to take a look at the bill itself. And I'd like for you to go to page 11 of the bill, please. Section 8, new section, fees, financial support. And I'd like to direct your attention to B1B. Upon the expiration of the existing franchise agreement, if the incumbent cable provider elects to possess the certificate of franchise authority, the incumbent cable provider shall pay a franchise fee to the municipality in an amount equal to the same percentage of gross revenue as had been assessed immediately prior to the termination of the incumbent cable operator's franchise. I'm not a lawyer, someone want to explain that to me? Who wants to go first? Yes.
Is this Rita's or your on that? I apologize. Is this yours, Jude? Okay, I'm sorry. This was your, okay, go ahead.
Basically, it came from, that how it was that our companies would be able to ensure that they get the same percentage of what they were before they choose to opt into the state franchise.
Why do they care?
Some of them have very nice franchise fees, very low franchise fees now.
I find this section to be unacceptable. This is
And we have
where
language, this is one of the things we're discussing and that we proposed.
I'm telling you, I find this language to be unacceptable. That does not allow cities enough flexibility to negotiate in the future with new providers. I find this language to be unacceptable. And it will not be in the bill coming out of the Commerce Committee. So I'm suggesting you need to work out something.
We're already working on it representative-wise.
Because if you don't, I'll impose with an amendment a solution. Okay. The other thing is, when do you propose to reach finality on your negotiations, since you needed to get face-to-face before you could actually agree to anything? When do you propose to get finality? Let me rephrase that. When today do you propose to get finality and report the finality to the drafter?
Is there a caveat on that, that we don't reach out finality today, that
Absolutely not going to kill a bill. We're going to draft our own amendment.
I guess we know the chief for that, Representative Wise. I'm not trying to be coy, I just know that we made a lot of headway, but we did spend Thursday through Sunday getting that, so I think it's not considered we're working in good faith.
Good.
I think the cities are as well.
All right, that's good. I see we haven't been joined by any other legislators, but we have 3 members of the Democratic caucus who are there. Chairperson Petersen, do you have questions? Representative Quirk? Well, given the amount of people around the room, I'd like to hear their too. You mean the new players? Representative Quirk has asked, please come to the table, identify yourself. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use the microphones, we just have to speak loudly.
Well, that's no problem for me. My name is Chris O'Hammer. I'm the director of an independent living center, which works with people with disabilities in the community. And the community, one of the services we do is provide information and referral about disability services. Public Access TV is in Iowa City is my landlord. They work with us to allow us to produce our TV show, which we then can get our views expressed to the community. And we are in charge of making it. They don't edit it, they don't change it, other than we can't say the foul words or do business and so forth, but we get to change our subject. As people with disabilities, we have trouble getting our voice heard. We don't have big money, we don't have anything but the opportunity to share with our community and our people what's going on. We bring in legislators, both parties, we work with everybody. We brought in Senator Grassley, we brought in Senator Harkin, we've worked with people in the community to get our perspective out there. This is the one way. We've got industries out there working against us all the time. So a tool like this is critical to us. If in this process of renegotiating, you accidentally leave the provider of that public access service with a lack of income or support to continue, or you change the management, the consequence could be we could lose that public access service. In particular, the one in Iowa City is our landlord, and it is a unique jewel for getting the word out. And it's critical that we have that there. And I'm really scared that we're going to have this technology change, and things are going to slip through where we're going to mess up a long-term contract that they have for funding to support them, because as a nonprofit organization, they've run independent of MediaCom. And so they have contracts, and they're here to explain that. But as the person who feels like my voice gets out because of them, I wanted to come to the table today and say, hey, this is necessary. Please, whatever you do, protect the ability of those community providers to offer that service to our community. And it's critical.
I understand your point of view. Are there provisions in Senate Bill 554 that you object to?
I think there are better people at speaking to the details. The director of the public access station is better at doing that. I just wanted to make sure that the voice of the public, other than those who are trying to save a buck on cable rates, and I understand that. I may be working against myself here, because I use Quest online service. I use Vonage in my office. I also need, the world is changing, and changing rapidly, but we can lose the benefits of something really great if we're not careful in the wording. Like you brought up the words. It's critical how one word can change it, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't know these things, but I do know that it's threatening to the long-term stability of a place who has a contract on a building, who has staff, who has purchased equipment, who has all those things in place, in a deal with MediaCom separate, that should be taken into consideration somehow at some point. And for details, I'll leave it to the other people.
Who's next? On this point, anyone else?
Yes.
Please.
I'm Josh Goding, the Director of Public Access TV in Iowa City. And Chris is our tenant. Thanks for his words. I just wanted to say that because of the franchise fees paid by Mediacom to the city, we're able to serve hundreds of nonprofit organizations in the area, and we're able to produce thousands of hours of community programs every year. We're very concerned with the lack of strong language protecting our operating budget, and we have to look at a serious reevaluation of our funding streams if this bill goes through, especially in terms of the opt-out clause where the incumbent would be basically allowed to just walk away from the existing contract that we stand to benefit for the next 13 years in a franchise extension that everybody in Iowa City worked very hard to set up. So, yeah, we're very concerned with the lack of strong language protecting HIG, and also the definition of gross revenues changing that would seriously affect the services we're able to provide to the community.
Do you believe the League of Cities has been representing your point of view of that issue?
I do, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's next? Yes.
Representative Wise, my name is Tim Hurley, I'm mayor in Waterloo, and I'll probably bring a perspective that's way behind the times, because obviously your committee is in a hurry. There's a tone of impatience.
Well, you've heard of a thing called a legislative funnel?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Maybe just what I hear this morning might be a result of the fact that, in my own opinion, and in many in my city, this bill is unneeded, unnecessary, illogical, and other things, but here we are. No one from the video providers has approached my city or my office. You can go to my city this afternoon. We don't have exclusive franchises. We're open for business. And so I just am coming from a different angle. The league is representing us well. I'm very concerned about our right-of-way management. That right and right-of-way belongs to the citizens of my city, not to private enterprise. And when I'm elected and representing those people, it's incumbent on me to, first of all, protect the use of that public right-of-way that carries gas, electric, water, sewer, telephone, cable TV, and it's getting pretty doggone crowded. And so there is a responsibility on my part in representing my citizens' public right-of-way that it is managed, and this bill doesn't do it for me. I can't get past the first, I can't absorb where we spend most of our energy, what revenues we're going to exclude, let alone how this is going to be managed. And so I feel like it's an unnecessary assault on what we're trying to do. It is, in the end, it has the danger of being anti-competitive, anti-consumer, and anti-business. Because while cities have been accused, I understand, of being greedy about franchise fees, etc., they're absolutely necessary. The leasing of that public right-of-way, we should get something for it, for a for-profit business. And the management fees, the same thing. And those generally in a city go into a general fund that is attacked from all angles. And it's absolutely, it's not greed. It's providing for firemen and policemen and parks and quality of life and clerks and dog licenses. So I'm obviously very concerned, and I apologize for my tone. I feel like a pair of brown shoes in a room full of tuxedos here, just in terms of my ability to absorb what is going on with the bill. We've got a competitive situation right now. There's non-exclusive franchises. We were not invited to the table, or nobody came to our table to discuss this last year or the year before. And if it must go, I am satisfied with the representation that the league has given, and I share their same concerns in spades. Thank you.
Very good. Who's next? Yes.
Thank you. I'm Laura Bergus, representing the city of North Liberty. We're in a unique situation in that we currently have 2 franchise cable providers in our city. One is a telephone company and one is a cable company. And I can say, this may be anecdotal, but our rates, I did a comparison of our rates with those of neighboring communities, and ours are higher than those of neighboring communities. Just something you may want to bear in mind. I share a lot of the concerns that the league representatives and other city representatives have already voiced, opt-out being a huge one. I understand that the build-out provision may be off the table for discussion, but please, if the subcommittee members could consider the implications of that for the future. We're talking about not just cable TV, but these providers offer multitudes of services over their infrastructure, and once we let them begin to cherry pick and redline and choose which neighborhoods are worthy of their more advanced infrastructure, there's no reason that in the future...
And do you believe this bill does that?
I believe it, yes.
Do you have specifics? Because obviously we would be against redlining.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that comment. The very, very minimal provision at the very end of the bill regarding build-outs would only affect Quest. There are over 125 independent phone companies in the state of Iowa who would not be affected by that and would not trigger that requirement. There are also the only prohibitions against discrimination are based on income. And I can tell you that in my neighborhood where I live, which happens to be in Iowa City, their Quest does not offer high-speed internet service because they do not deem it to be a lucrative neighborhood. And I'm lucky in that I do have another high-speed provider that I can go to. But in the future, I would not be able to receive video service from Quest because of where I live. They have no idea how much money I make. They have no idea the income of anyone who lives in an apartment in downtown, who may be a single parent, or a farmer who lives on the outskirts of town, who maybe is half a mile too far from what they deem to be the appropriate infrastructure to support that. So please, if there is the option to bring the discussion build out back to the table, I believe that is why it needs to be there.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Who's next? Yes.
My name is Ryan Wickstrom. I'm the franchise authority for the city of Coralville, and as you know, we're just south of North Liberty, and South Slope is interested in coming into Coralville as well. And by no means did we ever attempt to block them from entering Coralville, and we've tried to have discussions with them and explain, you know, the problems and how we go about that. But you know, I think Laura did a great job of explaining what just about any city would be doing this. And I believe the bill, by not having a build-out requirement or a build-out term requirement or something that says you have to move here, you have to try to expand your services no matter what, that's redlining. I mean, you could go, I believe a year or so ago, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal from some of the major national telecom organizations that said they're not interested in servicing the people who are going to have 20 communication bills. They want the people who are going to spend $200 for internet, phone, cable. Just right there, on a national level, they're saying they want the big money. And that doesn't protect low income. That doesn't protect families struggling to get by. So, I just think that the bill really needs to be reworked. I think the League of Cities has done a very admirable job of trying to get it in a better sense.
Okay.
But I think more could need to be done.
Armin, where'd you say you're from?
Coralville.
Who's next? Yes.
Yes, I'm next. I'll go down the road. My name is Brett Gordon. I'm just a citizen. I don't represent anybody but myself. However, I'm really, as a citizen, I'm not satisfied with the information services that are occurring just regularly. So to see the Iowa General Assembly entertaining a bill that was passed effortlessly through the Senate that seems to let someone operate without contributing to the public debate, like MediaCom has all these years, to let the telecoms then come in who've been able to compete since competition is the buzzword for the last 10 years. A bad business decision made in the boardroom a decade ago is now going to possibly disconnect people from there accessing their franchise, which is the ether, the communication system. Or make it entirely unaffordable for average people to get a message out or to produce something or to add to the public debate. So I'm wondering why, my question and statement would be, instead of letting Quest out and the telecoms out of contributing, why not make them belly up and pony up and create information bureaus throughout the whole state? To remedy, I mean, instead of cutting the funding and cut, why not invest back into the people? Because after all, that's who you represent.
I'm having a little trouble connecting that with the bill. What in the bill has the effect of doing that?
Well, there's a couple things in the bill. One, you have an opt-out, okay, which means it's at some point, by exercising, the telecoms exercising that the way I read it. Now maybe it's just so vague that I couldn't understand it myself, because it seems to be a pretty vague bill written by these telecom consortiums. But it seems to me that when you enter the market, then all of a sudden all bets are off for Mediacom, and they have no longer an obligation to support public dialogue debate through the public access system.
Public access.
And I think that along with this build out, I mean, the computer was invented in Iowa, and here in the 20th century, America goes into this 21st century, 21st in line behind the rest of the world in our telecommunications infrastructure. Now, that's a terrible blackout. And for the General Assembly to entertain undercutting the public debate, it's disturbing enough where I drove here to come.
Thank you for driving over. Who's next?
Mike Brau, Supervisor, Cable Television Division. I want to talk about something.
I would say what?
Cable Television Division. The microphone's working.
Yeah. Thanks to the technology savvy of the Iowa Utility Board, there's a switch to turn the system on and off over there, and it's now on.
How do we do it now? Okay. Yeah, like I said, Mike Brau, City Wires for the Cable Television Division. I'd like to talk about something that has not been addressed, and that's prohibition for municipalities to regulate the basic tier rate. Section 6, number 2 prohibits the municipalities from regulating the basic tier cable rates. The basic tier, of course, is the low-cost package, and I think this restriction on regulating those rates puts the economic the disadvantage at further risk. Under federal cable law, franchising authorities are given the authority to implement federal rules to regulate the basic tier cable rates. Iowa City has undertaken that responsibility. You may have seen the recent article where the basic tier rate in Cedar Rapids, which does not regulate rates, went up by 55%, is anticipated to go up by 55% to 1995. Iowa City's basic tier cable rate is $11.75. We've also heard from Ms. Bergus from North Liberty about the rate structure as well. What I would suggest is rather than prohibit a municipality from enforcing federal cable rates, that they be given the opportunity to do so if the IUB does not. So what I would urge you to do is merely strike the language in the bill that prohibits municipalities from regulating local cable rates and insert language that would allow them to enforce cable rates if the IUB does not. Thank you.
If the IUB does not, I would think it's contemplated in this bill that the IUB would.
Well, there's nothing in the bill that would prevent them from doing so.
And they haven't up to now.
Well, they don't issue franchises now. My understanding is that the franchising authorities are given the responsibility in federal cable law to regulate basic tier cable rates and equipment charges, rentals for boxes, etc. As municipalities have been the ones who have been issuing franchises, they have taken on the responsibility to regulate basic cable rates, much to the advantage of the most economically disadvantaged in Iowa City on the gas. This bill specifically prohibits municipalities doing so. So in the event the IB,
Your view is that local municipalities now regulate that basic cable rate?
if they file with the FCC and gather that authority, yes, they do. Obviously, it does so.
Is there any other state that
Could I explain just that? The cities, any city has the authority to regulate the lowest tier of cable rates unless effective competition exists. And right now in Iowa, it's about 50-50, about half the state can regulate and half can't, if I understand it correctly.
And the FCC determines when effective competition exists?
They do. Specific standard on that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Who's next? Well, Representative Quirk, yes.
My name is Shaffer. I'm with the city of Iowa City. Three things I'd like to talk about. One is the opt-out provision, because I think that's the linchpin of this whole bill. If there isn't something in here that is used as a trigger mechanism as to when effective competition occurs, real competition occurs in any given community, then essentially the phone companies and the cable companies can come in, apply for a statewide franchise, and everything with regard to the existing franchises become null and void. I'm not a lawyer, but that's what I see. The second thing I'd like to mention is that right now in Iowa City, we would lose about $350,000 in revenue as a result of the way this bill is written right now. And that includes the franchise fees, it includes the money to PATV, which is public access that we talked about earlier. It includes money for something we call pass-through, which provides a free video service for nonprofits in our community. And then last, the conversion fees. So altogether, we're looking at a considerable amount of money. That money does also serve educational channels, the library channel, the community college channel. So there are a lot of institutional users in Iowa City. The third thing I'd like to mention is something that has not been mentioned, is not in the bill, and that is consumer protection. Now, in Iowa City, we've had a consumer protection division. We've dealt with over 2,000 complaints in Iowa City. Those are people that have already tried to work out those problems with the cable company, but have not been able to do so. So they come to the city, they ask for assistance. Sometimes they're referred to the FCC. They've got no solutions there, so they come to us. And we work with those people, and we think 95% of the time we come up with a resolution that's satisfactory to both parties.
No, I will admit on point 3, I have found it interesting that no one or no organization purporting to represent that particular consumer interest has said anything to this General Assembly. And quite frankly, you represent the city of Iowa City, which may not actually qualify you to be the advocate for the consumer, because you represent the city government. But I found that interesting too. On the first 2 points that you raised, do you believe the League of Cities is representing those two positions in the discussions that are going on? Because we've heard about those time and again. In fact, we heard just this morning that this trigger mechanism for opt-out is really kind of a linchpin of reaching something here.
I do believe that it is true that the league and the phone companies are working very, very hard to try to come up with this opt-out solution.
Okay.
The money, the $350,000, represents 4 different kinds of funding. As I understand it, there hasn't been made much progress in that area, and I would like to see more progress there.
All right. Thank you very much, Representative Petersen.
You said you had fielded over 2,000 customer complaints. Can you categorize those for me? Like basically what are most of them?
So billing issues, technical issues, damage issues, and customer service problems.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Representative Kelley, do you have any questions?
I've always got questions when it comes to this, and I've been very vocal. And if you will recall, at our very last meeting, we talked about the consumer problem. And I mentioned at that time, is the IUB going to take on this responsibility? Because we are talking about these kinds of problems. Currently, I think most cities have what we call a cable commission, which your current providers submit a report on a monthly basis and attend this meeting, and they talk about these consumer issues. It is a big problem, and it needs to be addressed. I still have problems with and I'm waiting to see an amendment that addresses the right of way, that addresses predatory pricing, and definitely keeps these communities whole when it comes to that franchise fee. I do not want to see us do something that's going to harm these communities, and I voiced this throughout this process.
Representative Struyk? Any questions?
No. At this time, I'm wondering what we're going to do with consumer protection, if anything. I think the competition produces its own form of consumer protection. I, as a small business owner, face competition and don't need government to come in and tell me how to treat my customers because I want to attract customers. So I too wait to see what we're going to propose, if anything.
Okay. Representative Jacobs?
Thank you. My question really would be for the collective group here. I hear a lot about the oversight that the local governmental entities are providing, and I'm questioning if the IUB could take on that similar role, if there would be a focus on basic tier rates, as an example. To me, if it's at the state level, they're looking for oversight, or if it's at the city level, does it not become transparent what was being done at the city level that could go to the IUB at the state level? And I hear a lot of concerns, but I'm thinking at the same time that possibly the IUB could take on some of that, and I don't want to give them a lot of concern for a lot of additional heavy workload, but it seems to me that it's transparency, whether it be at the state level or at the city level. I'd be interested in some thoughts on that.
Well, obviously, the IUB is represented here today. John, do you wish to respond to with the question, or would you just like to continue monitoring? Because we know the IUB has no position on this bill.
Well, I think that that's a legislative decision to decide where, if you indeed want oversight of customer service, that's a legislative decision for you to make. We're set up to do it if you make it that way, and otherwise we're happy to just be the issuer of the franchise, which is a very simple process. Yeah. So I guess I would be interested in your question to the people at the table, just, you know, how would they foresee that going forward? So.
Well, I see a problem with it myself, because if I'm, as a consumer, if I have an issue, I can go to my locality in West Branch and go, hey, I have a problem, and let's fix this. And they do that. Now, I don't know, I was told that soon we'll have to advocate all the way up to the FCC. Now, I don't know, I think that could take months to get my cable things straightened out, and my phone thing straightened out that way. I'm wondering how fast and how efficient it really is to have a state board do something that gets done in hours in a locality.
We probably could do it faster than the FCC.
A safe comment.
Well, that's a scary notion. They have to go to the FCC.
Okay. Who else has a question or comment? Yes.
Can I respond to this woman's question?
Is the representative?
Yes. From the IUB.
Oh. Representative Jacobs from West Des Moines, Joe Conrad from the IUB. Who are you addressing to?
I'm new to this.
Who are you addressing to?
I'm addressing is to
Representative Jacobs. All right.
One of the things that we went through in our refranchising process is something we call trying to determine the needs and interests of a local community. It told us a lot about our community. I do think that every community would come up with something that's different, whether it's regulating rates or providing customer service or protection services. angry they are, how upset they are. I get to that cable company within 24 hours. They get back to me within 24 hours. That is solving problems on the local level, and I think that works. In terms of rates, we deal with the FCC. Every time the cable company has tried to raise rates on the basic service, we have challenged them. We have won every time. We've saved the community at least $190,000 in rebates. And there again, that was Iowa City's choice. The needs assessments that we did for our community said they want those kinds of protections.
Libby, do you have a...
I do have a follow-up question. And the follow-up question is, of the consumer, and it can be for you from Iowa City or anyone else, of the consumer complaints you receive, what percentage is their first call to you versus what percentage is their first call to the cable operator? Because I don't know many people in my area who would call the city. They would call, in our case, it's Mediacom, and that's who they would call first. And I'm assuming, are you telling me that everything's escalated to the city, or are they calling you first? I think that would be really helpful information.
Yeah, I am saying that everything has escalated to the city. Our rule is you have to deal with the cable company first. If you can't resolve it, then come to us.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
A follow-up, you had said earlier that there was no one here representing the side of the consumer with the complaints and all that. And I feel like, to some degree, that's a pretty difficult thing. I just learned about this meeting last night, and I'm here. And I think that the general public, by and large, is awful hard to motivate to get up and come out and do something on issues when they're dealing with day-to-day living issues. And so it is incredibly difficult to get anybody who doesn't have a direct financial stake in the game to even know what's going on these kinds of things, and to take on the size of businesses such as Mediacom and Quest, and to come up here and talk in front of you takes a lot of courage and strength. And I think it's just a real burden. There's no organization out there that's representing us, but our elected legislators and our city people and we leave it to you guys to do that and to keep our interests up front. So I think we think you're doing it for us, but maybe that's something we need to work on.
Okay, who was next? Yes.
Yes, Terri Goodman, Assistant City Manager from Dubuque, and I just want to congratulate you for saying that, because I think we believe that cities do represent citizens, in addition to our city councils and elected officials. And we've been informed that this bill is going to be passed, and that the best we can do is try to make corrections, and we have been trying to make those corrections. It disturbs me that there's been an impression that I've picked up around here that somehow the cities are the bad guys in this contract. And it seems to me that while cities do benefit from some franchise revenue fees for cable service, that at the end of the day, what we really feel we negotiated for was access for all the citizens, not just for particular neighborhoods, that we negotiated for public access channels that help bring important local information to our citizens. In the case of Dubuque, we're in a 15-year contract. It took 3 years to negotiate with Mediacom. We're in the second year. We stand to lose a lot. But we included in those negotiations INET connections for all of our public schools, municipal buildings, and our nonprofits. In addition, we've got national security issues that rely upon these kinds of connections. And I just don't understand where the wisdom is in turning this over to a state franchise. I mean, I would imagine the industry would also like a national franchise, and I doubt that that would be advisable. So I think that there are still corrections to this bill that need to be made to protect consumers, protect our rural areas, and, connect our citizens and our communities, all of them, not just some. And I think that the state has an obligation to look after those needs and those concerns.
Are there specific issues with Senate File 554 that you don't believe the League of Cities is representing during the talks that are going on? Because I couldn't quite frankly tell, even if by the end of your comment, whether you were arguing for a no vote on the bill or an amendment to the bill.
No, seriously. Our vote from our community, our mayor and our council is voting, that they do not support this bill as it is. So if our alternative having been told here that our only chances to correct it and make amendments that will correct the legislation will work until the end of the day for that.
Yep. I'm sure Representative Murphy and Representative Goodman will be happy to discuss that. But right now, we're trying to focus at the subcommittee level on an amendment to Senate File 554. It is not the intention of this subcommittee to kill this bill at the subcommittee level. In fact, that will not happen. So, again, work with the League of Cities, and if they're not representing you, work directly with us on specifics in the bill. I mean, I'm speaking only for myself. I didn't come into this with any preconceived notion. But I've been around long enough to know that we're trying to take a piece of legislation that passed the Senate overwhelmingly, and I believe, by the way, the senators from Dubuque and Johnson County voted for it, and then look at some reasonable modifications to that to raise the comfort level of those of us in the House. That's all the subcommittee is trying to do. And I see it's 12 o'clock. I would say this to anybody around the perimeter who wants to deliver the message. This subcommittee is recessed until upon adjournment today.
I want to thank you for allowing us to speak. Absolutely. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.